Hi everyone, Deb Gesualdo here with the Malden Education Association January 2020 updates. First and foremost, Happy New Year. I hope that everyone has a happy and healthy 2020. I wanted to just talk with everyone about a few updates that I think are important and of interest. The first thing I wanted to talk with you about is the 2020 census. And you might be wondering, why is a local labor union president interested in the 2020 census? Well, the 2020 census and making sure there's a complete and accurate count is important because the census determines certain funding levels for not just your state but your municipality. The data garnered from the 2020 census will determine the distribution of $11.3 billion in special education grants to states, $14 billion in Title I grants that serve more than 24 million students from economically disadvantaged families across the nation, $13.6 billion for the National School Lunch Program, funding for the Head Start program, and much, much more. Now, the 2020 census is set to kick off on January 21st in Alaska, and by, about the middle of March, about 95% of the households in the country should have received a letter with instructions on how to complete the census. It's so important that I complete the census, you complete the census, all of your neighbors and friends and family complete the census, because an inaccurate census will have such a negative impact on public schools. And unfortunately, undercounting most often occurs in communities of color. What does this mean for us? Public schools that serve communities of color will not receive the resources that they need and deserve. There's some really easy things, though, that we can all do to help make sure that a complete and accurate count is taken for the 2020 census. We can talk with people that we know about what's at stake and why it's necessary that their household participates in the census. We can post on social media about the census and use the hashtag #CountMeIn. We can go to the National Education Association and American Federation of Teacher websites and look at their resources about the 2020 census to educate ourselves better and to know where to direct people about 2020 census resources. Know of people who are concerned about their immigration status and how the census could impact them. Please make sure that they know that it is a federal crime to use any information that's gathered in the through the census form for anything other than obtaining a complete and accurate count. Census takers can't and they should not be asking for money. They shouldn't be asking for social security numbers, any banking information, etc. The Malden Education Association leadership is part of the City of Malden Census Steering Committee, and we'll definitely be communicating any information that we get from the committee to our membership so that we can all do our part in making sure that the City of Malden gets a complete and accurate count so that our students and our schools get the resources that they need and deserve. It's just so important to make sure that we do all that we can to make sure that there's a complete and accurate count for the 2020 census. Speaking of things that are coming up in 2020, there might be a little thing that we're hearing about called the 2020 presidential election. The National Education Association has launched their Strong Public Schools website, and you can find that at strongpublicschools.org. And you can find all sorts of information about every single candidate that is currently running for president. You can find information on Democrats, Republicans, independents. There is a great tool where you can check off different candidates and compare their stances on public education. It's a really easy to use website. You can find information there on how to run to be a delegate to national conventions, etc. Definitely go check it out. It is, again, strongpublicschools.org. There is a webinar coming up on Thursday, January 16th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time for education support professionals, and the webinar's topic is accommodations and modifications, what paraeducators need to know. If you're looking for more information on that, you can either check out our most recent newsletter that was sent out to members, Or you can go to massteacher.org, click on events and conferences, and then on the calendar, and get more information there to register for that webinar. The webinars that are put on by the MEA typically are really great with lots of great information. Also, Martin Luther King Jr. Day is coming up, and the National Education Association has some great resources for teachers on that. If you just go to NEA.org, right on the homepage, you'll see a link for resources for teachers on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and it's resources for teachers that teach at all different grade levels. And the resources are really, really wonderful. Also coming up on January 22nd, and I mentioned this actually in my December updates video, is a community meeting at 6:30 p.m. in the Malden High School Gallery with City Life Vita Urbana. And this community meeting is to help make sure that tenants know their rights if they get a rent hike that they can't afford or an eviction notice and they don't know what to do. There is a way to get help, and this community meeting is one of those ways. City Life Vita Urbana will be there, Greater Boston Legal Services, the Chinese Progressive Association. If you know of any students, families, community members in Malden, or if you yourself are in need of some assistance, this is a great resource. Again, it is being held on January 22nd at 6:30 p.m. in the Malden High School Gallery. It is open to absolutely anyone. Please feel free to distribute this information at your discretion to anyone whom you might think might be in need of assistance. City Life Vita Urbana is an organization that has been around for many, many years in the greater Boston area, and they do just amazing work around tenants' rights and helping people who are the victim of unfair predatory practices by landlords. We don't have a date yet, but on the horizon, we are working with the MTA to plan some relicensure workshops for people who are holding their preliminary and initial license to walk you through the steps of obtaining your professional license, and then a separate workshop for people who already hold their professional license on renewing your professional license and the requirements for individual professional development plans, etc. So we are looking to try to set dates for those workshops in March, so stay tuned for more information on that in an upcoming update video as well as a newsletter. Keep an eye on our social media accounts, which will be in the description box below. Again, I hope everyone has a happy and healthy 2020, and thanks for watching. Bye.